Awesome. Aloha, everybody. I've got our good friend Matt Stead here. Oh, how convenient that we're lined up that I can actually point at him. I love seeing so many folks in the chat. This is great. So yes, Matt is here in studio with us. I know it doesn't look like it, but there. So, but yes, we are all together. It's really exciting, and it's actually, you might be able to hear it now. There is some serious rain happening right now. It's pretty intense. So
it's like I'm back in England. I brought it with me.
Well, and I was telling Matt, that's actually pretty typical of this specific area where we live, Manoa. It's known for being very rainy. That's also why it's very lush and green here versus like Waikiki, because you guys are staying in Waikiki.
Yeah.
Which is usually pretty sunny.
Yeah.
Like as soon as you drive out of the valley, it's like, oh, it's beautiful out here. We'll think it's storming on the island, and it's just us.
That actually happened last week, didn't it? I was saying, oh, it's beautiful, bright sunshine. And
Yes.
You're saying, well, it's raining here.
Yeah.
It's like quarter of an hour away. Amazing.
So you might hear the rain because it's coming down pretty hard.
Oh, Cat's already out of the bag. Someone already mentioned nice uke.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
You want to show them your beautiful
This
new
is,
instrument?
Yeah, this was a real treat. I ordered this off Bohanam, who's a brilliant maker, years ago, really, and Bo's been working on it for ages. And I've been really patient because I think you have to give luthiers time to make something brilliant. And it's a nice thing to do, right? But because he knew I was in Hawaii, he thought, why not ship it internally? So I got a surprise yesterday. I was at the hotel, and suddenly the lobby called up and said, we've got a big box for you. We're not sure what it is. And it turned out to be this ukulele. So yeah, I got this last night and I'm already in love with it. So this is the River Severn where I live in the UK, coming down the headstock into the fretboard, something Bo did especially. So yeah, my new baby.
That's awesome. So many great people in the chat. I love it. GJ Lee, hello. I don't know what time it is where you are. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, I love your uke. Bohanam is so nice. I've never met him in person, but I've exchanged multiple emails and stuff with them, and he is just the nicest guy. If you haven't checked out his instruments, definitely do so. He makes beautiful guitars and ukuleles, and the other thing too, he did a project where I think Jimmy Carter actually has a guitar by him.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just really cool. Check him out. Another great luthier. There's so many. That's one thing that's been great about sort of the ukulele boom that's been happening over the years is that we've gotten some really great luthiers. Craig sometimes talks about when he was growing up, it was like Kamaka, and that was it.
Yeah.
That was your choices, Kamaka or Toy. And so it's pretty great. Oh my gosh, the Welshies are here. Aloha, Aaron and family.
Oh, hi, Aaron. Hi, Aaron.
This is cool.
Yeah, I got to go to Ukulele Friends a couple of days ago, and he's just got so many ukes. And, you know, being in Hawaii, you'd expect kind of Kamaka and Koaloa and all those great brands. But it's like every 2 minutes he's just pulling off a beautiful custom-made ukulele by a different luthier.
Yep.
And every single one was just like, oh, such a dream to play. It was so hard not to come away with like 6 ukuleles, but my wallet said no. So that's
There you go. There you go. Yeah. So Sean, he's such a nice guy, and I was laughing with him through Facebook that we need to go visit him. We need to go check out the instruments, and you got to see like some of the first ukuleles too, right?
We sat on the floor and he pulled out all these ukes out of the vaults, like early Nunes and kind of Santos and stuff like that.
Woo!
And he even had what they think is the first ukulele, so it's like the first use of koa coming from Machette de Braga into a proper ukulele.
Wow.
So it's like I got to hold possibly the first ukulele. It's just like, whoa, mind blown.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Now, does he have them strung up so you can play them?
Yeah, so some of them he's got the strings loose just because some of the historical ones you need to take really good care of them.
Yeah.
But I played, I'm trying to remember, there were so many, I try to remember, I think it was a Nunes from the turn of the last century, so 18th into 19th.
Wow.
Or 19th into 20th, sorry.
Yeah.
Getting mixed up. And that was strung up with gut strings, but in perfect tune and played well. And low action, no buzzes. And that's like 120 years old or something.
Oh my
Yeah, amazing.
That's so cool. Phew. Oh, aw. Sorry, I'm just double checking on the chat. Goedenavond, our friends in the Netherlands. Good to see you
Oh,
guys
cool.
here. And oh, sweet Ukulele Project Hawaii. Aloha, good to see you. This is very cool. There's so many people and so many friends from the UK that I'm seeing. This is so nice that your friends are staying up late.
Yeah.
Right? Because what time is it actually?
I think it's like 11 hours ahead. So.
Oh my gosh.
No, 11 hours. Yeah, 11 hours ahead. So it's evening time.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric. Yeah, he's using Rongji on that uke.
Yes, he
Oh,
is going to
I
be using
know.
the low G today.
To be fair, though, I didn't get a choice. I did think about restringing it first thing this morning, but no.
No need. Oh yes, currently a 7:51 p.m. in the UK.
Wow.
Thank you guys
Yeah.
for joining us after or possibly during your dinner.
Thanks for switching off Ant and Dec's Saturday night takeaway.
Yeah, why don't we warm up a little bit with something? Let's play a little song together. That'll be fun.
Sure. So, can we do, since you're here in Hawaii, why don't we do White Sandy Beach? Yeah. Okay.
Love that song.
And then for those of you at home, we're going to just play it in the key of F. So feel free if you know the song or you just want to try to follow our fingers. No one's playing baritone, so you can look at any of these squares and you'll be okay. Yeah. Let's see. Let's just.
I'll turn this guy off for a second.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to think of the lyrics. Give me a second. Just stay on the F. I saw you in my dream. We were walking hand in hand on a white sandy beach of Hawaii. We were playing in the sun. We were having so much fun on a white sandy beach of Hawaii. Matt, do you want to do the sounds?
The sound of the ocean soothes my restless soul. The sound of the ocean rocks me all night long.
Last night in my dreams, I saw your face again. We were there on a white sandy beach of Hawaii. Matt, take it away.
sounds of the ocean soothes my restless soul. The sound of the ocean rocks me all night long.
Last night in my dreams, I saw your face again. We were there in the sun on a white sandy beach of Hawaii. On a white sandy beach of Hawaii. Aww. Yay!
That was fun.
Yay! Yay!
I got to sing Brother Is in Hawaii.
And I mean, you're so close to the beach probably that the sounds of the ocean probably do.
They do.
They do soothe your soul.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. How
Now,
fun.
so again, from Forest of Dean, and we got a chance to spend some time with you over the past few years, and we can't thank you enough for taking us in like family. It really was.
Seriously.
And we really, it was such a highlight of our trip, and I think that was that was the last trip. Was that 21 city?
Yes, I
one,
think
right?
that was the last time we were over. No, it wasn't. It wasn't the last time we were over. We actually did a great. When I was pregnant with Cameron, we popped. Oh no.
no.
Was I pregnant during that tour? No, I wasn't pregnant during that tour.
And it all kind of we used to. Oh my gosh, we used to travel so much, and
Well, the thing-
everything just kind of blurs at that
I think
point.
one of the things, so we've done a couple of tours over there, and for both of those tours, the very first one, you actually set up 2 of our gigs, if I remember correctly, and like one in Bristol and one, I think, in the Forest of
Yeah,
Dean.
that's right.
And like, it was one of those where you're just like, yeah, I'll do it. And we were so grateful.
Aw,
and then
thank you.
the next year was when you did the retreat.
Yeah.
With
yeah.
us.
We had like it was 3 days, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
3
And that was
wonderful-
lovely because you actually came to my doorstep. You know,
Yes.
we're right in the
And-
That
the
was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was such a wonderful. We had so much fun teaching you guys, and just, I mean, there is something magical about like where the uke room is. That's actually
you.
your ukulele story, yeah.
Yeah.
Where, so if you're ever in the UK, just go to the uke room. It's a very sort of healing place. I don't know, just the beautiful countryside, the views you have, and
Yeah,
it's
that
very
is pretty
peaceful.
ridiculous to walk outside and
I know, it's just like,
it looks like an
Beautiful.
old PC desktop screensaver.
Yeah.
It does.
I know, right? I had a really lovely moment
Yeah.
when you guys were teaching. I could just see all these swallows floating about outside. It was like, oh,
yeah.
this is good.
Is definitely just a magical place. And you host other workshops. You've had James Hill.
Yeah, yeah. We've had the Molinas, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and Jay and now, of course, and
Didn't you have
who else
Aaron
we
and
had?
Nicole Kime?
No, sadly. Hopefully we will at some point.
Yeah.
They were due to come, but of course it
That's
was the
right.
COVID year.
Yeah.
And then we had to delay twice because of COVID. But
Right.
yeah, one day. I absolutely love Aaron and Nicole.
Yeah.
So it'd be great. to have
So
them over.
that's, yeah.
Yeah. So all the way from the UK, he's been in Hawaii for about almost 5 days now.
Yeah. So we got in Monday evening, sort of Tuesday morning. In fact, we had an extra day. I thought for some reason we were getting in Tuesday night, and we got in Monday night. So it's like bonus
Oh, except
day.
you're gonna lose that. You're gonna lose like 2 days on the way back.
Yeah, I
right?
That is true. I feel like going back is way harder than coming here.
Yeah.
Going later is way more of a shift.
In fact, if any of my students are watching that I'm going to be teaching the Monday I get back, I'm so sorry. Let's just do C, F, and G7, right?
Oh my gosh! But so Matt reached out saying he's going to be here in Hawaii, so we thought it would be perfect to line up
Yeah.
a workshop with him again. Store owner, ukulele, just ambassador in the UK, and does a lot of teaching and hosting retreats and other incredible little mini events up in the UK.
Ooh, that
I
rain.
apologize for the Manoa rain right now.
Yeah, that's if you're
hopefully
hearing
it's
this
not too loud in the speaker. But yes, she's investing. Yes, it is way harder.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, but it's so great to see you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We're gonna start actually with Sarah first, I believe, right? To kind of go over the bass version of the song, and then Matt's gonna take over from there.
Yeah.
And I might do something at the very, very end if there's some time. But again, welcome to Matt Stead. So great to have you, buddy.
Thank you for having me as well. And thanks for being so generous with your time. And yeah, really appreciate it.
So let's just go through the bass version of the tune so that you can be familiar with it, and that way Matt can take you through and add some really beautiful chordal movement. Oh my gosh, this rain, it's coming down hard here in Manoa. Okay, so looking at it, it's not too bad. You start with C and the C diminished. D minor 7's not terrible. G7's pretty easy. C to C7, and then your F to F minor. Now, some people have trouble going from F to F minor. Now, you might notice that my fingers look a little awkward right now. So one thing I tend to do that I think I've talked about in past live streams is when I play F, all I do is add my pinky and I take this middle finger and literally slide it down like that, as opposed to flipping them. You can still flip them. That's just fine. Some people, this is awkward and painful, potentially, if you're very arthritic, for example. But for me, I trained my finger to be able to kind of go backward, because in moments where I'm only playing the chord for 2 beats, it's, for me, just more efficient to do this than this, right? Also, fun fact, if you're holding F, you could play this note here on your A string if you wanted, and just flip your fingers, because this is still an F chord. You're just doubling the C note instead of doubling the A note, right? So there's that. The next chord is C. You have A minor 7. Easy chord. That's not a typo. D minor 7, G7. Now I want to point out here, going from G7 to E7 is super easy. All I have to do is lift up my index and hop over 1 string. Done. Just hoppity hop. So G7 to E7. I didn't move my wrist. I didn't move my arm. I didn't do this to reach my E7. It was just a simple G7, E7. Then, of course, the A7. And you can use the Barre D7 or the Hawaiian D7. It doesn't really matter to us. G7. The second verse is pretty much the same, except the ending of that second verse is C to F minor to C, and then we play an E7. I'm going to scroll to the next page. Let's go through the chords of this guy for your B section. That like Jack Horner in the corner. So it's an A minor 7, very easy. Going to the F, and then A minor 7 again. And then an A7. Easy, G to A minor 7. And of course D7, G7, A7, D7, and G7. One thing to keep in mind is during your kisses, that G chord actually lasts 4 beats. Many of these chords in the song, especially in the A section, it's all like 2 beat, 2 beat, 2 beat, 2 beat. But, and when you get to the B section, your A minor 7, your F, your A minor 7, A7, and G, those are all 4 beats each. But don't worry, you'll follow along with me, and you get to watch me try to play and scroll. It'll be a good time. So let's go through and just play it, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. No one to talk with, all by myself. No one to walk with, but I'm happy on the shelf. C, ain't misbehaving, saving my love for E7, A7, D7, G7. Second verse. I know for certain the one I love. I'm through with flirting. It's just you I'm thinking of. Ain't misbehaving. I'm saving my love for you. C, F minor. C, E7, here we go. A minor, like Jack Horner. F, In the corner, A minor. Don't go nowhere. What do I care? G. Your kisses are worth 2 beats again. Waiting for. Believe me. Last verse. I don't go out late. Don't care to go. Oh no. I'm home about 8, just me and my radio. Ain't misbehaving, saving my love for you. Now, one thing you might have noticed that I did do is for that saving my love for you, I actually played the C with my pinky because it sure makes going from C to F minor to C super easy. So anytime you've got a C to F minor and you can think ahead, put your pinky down first. It'll make things a lot easier for you. So that's the bass version of the song. It's a really great tune. There's a lot of, for those of you that have been following us, there's a lot of 1-6-2-5 movement happening in it. And it's just a really great jazz standard. So now that we've gone through it, you kind of got the bass tune. I'm sure we'll play it again multiple times throughout the live stream. I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Matt so he can get to making
and actually,
this.
sir, really
Yes.
quick, do you want to mention that that in the B section, did you want to mention the variation that you can add?
Actually,
Okay.
no, because I think Matt's actually going to talk a little bit about
perfect.
that.
And then there was a question about the diaper packet for this month.
Oh, yes.
Can you play a little bit of what that, or explain it to me a little
I'll
bit
just
what that
explain it
entails?
real quick. So for the Diaper Club packet for this, if you guys were asking, what's the extra bit? So I actually created a chord melody using this bass arrangement of the song. So and I actually did a video that's a mini lesson. It's about 30 minutes long. Actually, no, I think it might be a little bit less than 30 minutes. But I go through measure by measure, talking about the choices I made, why I did the things that I did, and then also give you some variations as well. And at the end, I do play through the piece so that you can, so that you can hear what it would sound like if you played it as written. But with all the variations and things that I give you in that lesson, you will get to be able to kind of make the song your own. I recorded the lesson yesterday, so the link for that is going to be sent out after this live stream. So those of you who have bought your Diaper Club, look for an email from me probably later today that's going to have that link for you so that you can then do that. The other thing I think I'm actually going to add that wasn't listed on the website is I'm going to also make some backing tracks so that you can actually have something to practice with as well, utilizing the bass arrangement. So that is what's in the Diaper Club for you guys. So there we go. All right, Matt, let me move this iPad over so that you can control
Just
it.
going to tune up quickly as well.
Oh, that's fine.
My uke's gone, humidity, what's going on?
I know, right? So if I remember correctly, and feel free to move that wherever you need
Thanks,
it.
Sarah.
The humidity, if I remember correctly, I think the humidity in Colorado is much drier, than here. So this instrument's soaking it up.
Yeah, it's probably expanding as we speak. Bit like my waistline after all these nice Hawaiian breakfasts. You know what I mean? Great, thanks, Sarah. So what we're going to do with this then, folks, is create some what I call chordal movement in the chords to make things more interesting. So if you followed any of my videos, and similar to a lot of the stuff that Sarah and Craig do, I like to do a lot of playing up the dusty end, these kind of frets that we quite often don't touch and we're going up. And that's kind of nice enough in itself. So if we take kind of the first portion of the song, we could just quite simply play a version up the fretboard with C here. I'll talk through the chord shapes in a minute, so don't worry about this. Followed by a diminished, a D minor here. And then the temptation would be to play a G7, something like this, which is nice if I put that together. Sounds nice, but then have a listen to this. Ooh. That's a lovely chord, that one at the end. And the idea is to create almost like a mini melody. We're doing this using something called chromatic melody. Chromaticism, you can way overcomplicate it, but just think about it. It's literally one fret next to another. So instead of moving up notes during a scale, we literally move to the next possible note. So as I was playing those chords, you could hear this. C, C sharp, D, to D sharp, which is actually mirroring something the vocals are going to be doing. So we're going to be creating a lot of this movement and adding drama to this piece, and it sounds absolutely lovely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump straight in, and we're going to have a look at the first verse. Now this is pretty much the same, apart from the fact that we have a couple of chordal substitutions, which I'll show you on the laptop. There we go. It's the first time I've used one of these, so hang on, I've just got to do this. That's so much fun. So if we have a look at the first line, we've got exactly the same chords as the first time we played it. And that's an important thing to note. We don't want to just do these changes on every single verse. I think it was Kimo Hussey I watched a video of, and he once told about the fact that every time you play a verse, something different should be happening, so it keeps it interesting for the listener. That's what we've got here, basically. So the first line, we're going to keep exactly the same. We've just got bog standard C chord, C sharp diminished 7, D minor 7, G7. Then we go to the second line here. If I just do a little arrow, that doesn't look like an arrow, does it? What does that look like? I don't know, an S or something. But we have a C to a C7. Now, if you remember in the first version we played this bit, we did an F chord to an F minor chord. Now what I've done, just to create a bit of variety, I've substituted the F chord for an F6. Now an F6 is just another type of major chord. People get kind of tangled up in chord names and what they mean, and they get kind of a bit stressed sometimes about what to do. If I just give you a few chord substitutions that are easy to remember, this is one of them. Anytime you have a major chord and you want to swap it out for something more interesting, my go-to ones are either a 6, so a major 6, a major 7th, or a major 6/9. So when you're looking to kind of make those chords more exotic, perhaps try those. There's only 3 to remember, and perhaps we could jot those down later for you. There are many others, but if you just remember a few at a time, it gives you something to experiment, which is really nice. Now you might notice that the F6 shape, does that look familiar? It should do. It's the same shape, right, as the D minor 7 in the line above. This kind of brings up the subject as to why two chords look the same but have two different names. Do you remember when Sarah was showing you that F chord? She showed you how you could play an F chord by adding your little finger or second finger here, so we have this C note. Well, all we're doing is we're taking this F chord and we're adding the 6th note of the F major scale. Don't sweat the theory too much, but just know we're adding that finger there, which turns it into an F6. Whereas when we have a D minor 7, we're taking a D minor and we're adding the 7th note, which ends up with the same shape. So that's kind of how you can end up with two chords with different names but exactly the same shape. Kind of confusing, isn't it? But great when you get it. The next thing I've done is I've added another diminished 7th shape, and I love these. Diminished 7th shapes should be your friends. They're really great for getting from one place to another. And it looks like quite a difficult change, right? Because we have this F6 here, but there's an easy peasy lemon squeezy way of doing diminished chords and making them easy to finger. And this might be something that Sarah and Craig have covered before, I'm sure, but if not, here it is anyway. Keep your little finger where it is. And then on the top 3 strings physically, the ones nearest your nose on your ukulele, just hold down a G major shape. So it's like that G major shape on the top 3 strings physically, and your little finger is staying where it is on that C note. So it's not too bad a change. Look, I'm just switching these top 3 fingers from this one to this one. It just adds a bit of drama and a bit more excitement to that part of the song. Next up, we're still doing the same thing. C, A minor 7, everyone's favourite chord, right? No fingers at all. D minor 7, G7, E7, moving that finger up, just like Sarah said. A7, D7. Now, here's something interesting. Before we're playing a G7 in normal open position, right, down here. We've got a G7 now up here at the 3rd, 4th and 5th frets. And again, this might be quite difficult for some people to finger, but I'm going to give you a couple of tips. You know our good old F7 chord down here, which is like taking an F chord and adding this finger here to the 3rd fret of the C string. It's that shape, just move 2 frets higher, and then our little finger on the same fret as our 3rd finger. Basically what you're doing is you're playing at an E7, but moved higher and higher. So you take an E7, it becomes an F7, an F sharp 7, and a G7. Now, there's a really good reason I've chosen that chord, and this is really important when you're creating your own arrangements. If you're playing a lot of chords down here in open, and you want to do another verse or a next section up here somewhere, we don't necessarily want to go from a chord right down here to a chord right up here. Partly because it's kind of difficult to do, right? First of all, you've got to move all these fingers up here, and it's a big movement. But secondly as well, it's not very smooth, is it? It's too big a change. So by playing this G7 here, it sets us up nicely for the barred C chord that follows. So should we just go through that in kind of slow motion? Let's just do a simple down strum on every chord, okay? So we're going to go 2 down strums. I'm just using my thumb. You can strum this up and down with your fingers, whatever suits you. Just relax and enjoy it. So if I count in 2, 3, 4, can have C twice, C sharp diminished, D minor 7, G7, second line, C, drop down to the corner for C7, here's our F6, swap around the top 3, excellent, F sharp diminished 7, let's just take a pause, take a breath, C, we can leave our little finger down, fingers off for A minor 7, and as those fingers are off, get them ready to come down for your D minor 7, G7, take that finger up for E7, A7, D7, and notice how now that leads us really nicely into this G7. Right, is everyone okay with that so far, do we think? Excellent. Let's have a look at where it gets really, really exciting now. So we're going to have a look at these chords here. Oh, can I get it right? Yeah, in this blue box here. So this is where we're really going to start to create this chordal movement. First of all, I'll just show you physically how to do it, and then I'll kind of explain what's happening and why it sounds so interesting. So first of all, we've got this C major chord, okay? Now that is literally just a B flat chord moved up once, twice, okay? Which makes sense, right? If we go up 2 frets from a B flat, it's got to be a C. Couple of things that will help you with that, which are really important. Now, again, those of you that are taking lessons with Sarah and Craig, I'm sure you've picked this up already. But if you notice that all of us are having our uke up at roughly a 45-degree angle, doesn't have to be exact, but it's not like this, right? And it's not like this. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. And this is really crucial for playing bar chords. If I keep my index finger exactly where it is, and I twist my uke so that it's kind of horizontal, can you see how my bar is kind of askew? It doesn't fit in the frets, does it? It's kind of awkward, which then means I've got to bring my hand around to some kind of really unnatural and comfortable position. So having that uke really relaxed in your lap, pointing up at 45-degree angle, allows you to bar across that 3rd fret, and then these 2 fingers up here. Just have an experiment with making that as comfortably as you can. Another thing that I find it helps as well, I tend to use the lower part of my index finger, and my thumb is on the back, where are we? Just behind. You might find you want to move your thumb slightly to the left or slightly to the right to kind of create that lovely bar chord. So that's our C major bar chord. Then we've got a C sharp diminished 7, which again, you'll see loads of these in this song, and they're the same shape every time, aren't they? Almost like that parallelogram, all those dots. And that's on your 3rd and 4th frets. Now, again, you might already know this, but I don't want to presume that, so I'm going to show you something cool. There are only 3 diminished 7th chords in the whole wide world, right? There's this one here. I'll show you this a bit more clearly in a minute. This one here, and this one here. It's a quirk of music theory because these chords are symmetrical. All of the notes are kind of like in a ladder going up the same distance apart from each other. That those 3 diminished chords, 1, 2, 3, just repeat themselves every 3 frets up the fretboard. So we can go from there, we can go 1, 2, 3. That's the same 3 chords. The reason it sounds slightly higher is some of the notes are up an octave now, and we could go one more. And that continues up the fretboard. Now, why am I showing you that? You know, kind of boring music theory, it can hurt the brain. Well, it can be really useful. I wanted to play a C sharp diminished 7, so that diminished chord up the fretboard. And if I didn't know which diminished 7th to do, well, we already had it, didn't we? If we look at the very first line of the song, I'll point out this bad boy there, C sharp diminished 7. Now, this diminished 7 looks different from all the others, doesn't it? Because it's only 2 fingers. And we most usually will just use our first and second fingers there like that, right? But if you think about it, all that's happened is we've taken this diminished 7th chord and we've pulled it back far enough that these 2 fingers have fallen off the fretboard. So I can use that theory I taught you to find that same shape up the fretboard. If we think of this as 1, 2, 3, that must mean, ta-da! We're back to 1 again here on the 3rd and 4th frets. So that's your C sharp diminished 7th. So we go from this B flat shape for the C major. Okay. We move our fingers back here for the C sharp diminished 7th. Then we've got a D minor 7. Now this one's easy peasy lemon squeezy. Just bar the whole of the 5th fret. And if you find it difficult to press down with just 1 finger, you might notice I've picked up some habits over the years. I actually sometimes use 2 to press that chord to make sure it rings out really nice and cleanly. The next chord is a little bit weird. What I've done is I'm playing a G9 altered chord. A G9 looks like this. We're covering the whole of the 4th fret with our index finger, and then the bottom 3 strings physically nearest the floor with our 2nd finger. When you're doing this chord, you don't need to push down really hard with the whole of this index finger, because if you think about it, this finger here is pushing down 3 of the strings. This finger only needs to touch this top string, right, the G string. So this would be a G9 chord. Now, that would kind of sound nice if we put that together with the C major, the C sharp diminished 7, D minor 7, and then the G9. But it's missing that chordal movement, isn't it? So far, we've had this sound. If I play those chords and really highlight it, can you hear that? It's lovely, isn't it? Those notes going up the fretboard. So why don't we go 1 further and add this note here, this lovely D sharp note, on this chord. Now we could call this chord a G9 augmented 5th, which is a bit of a mouthful, right? That's why I've just called it G9 out. Okay, we're all friends. It's just easier to remember and say, right? So let's have a look at it. It is a bit of a beast of a chord, right? Because we've got 3 fingers down. Key here is remembering which strings you need to press. With this index finger, it only needs to press down on this G string. With this 2nd finger, even though it's lying across 3 strings, it only really needs to add pressure to the middle 2. And then, of course, your 3rd finger just needs to add pressure to that A string. Now, really slowly, let's piece that together. I'm going to go like slow motion. Okay, so let's do that C chord. 2, 3, 4. Strum down twice. Lovely. To the C sharp diminished 7. To the D minor 7. Now the beast of a chord. Lovely. Now we have that little chromatic run as we go up, and that sounds super nice. Try that one more time. 2, 3, 4. Nice, right? Isn't that lovely? So it's all about creating movement within these chords. Now you might think, oh yeah, but if I'm creating my own arrangement, how am I going to know which chords to substitute, right? There's loads of different ones, isn't there? Well, just pick a few that you can remember. So we worked out that for a major chord, I could substitute a 6 for a major 7. Those are 2 nice ones to try. The G7 chord that we played is a form of dominant chord. You don't need to worry too much about that. It just means it's based on the 5th note of the scale, the G note. Now, a dominant chord, we tend to go upwards. So instead of playing a G7, we might play a G9 or even a G13th. And of course, there are loads of great resources out there where you can look up these chords up the fretboard. I've got my own uke theory book out, which I might be allowed to talk about at the end.
Yes, of course.
But it's okay. There are other great ones available as well. Sarah recommended years ago that I get hold of a book by Roy Sakuma, which is a really great chord dictionary. So you look up the chord that you want to take up the fretboard, say a G7, and you'll see it listed in 3 or 4 different positions, and you find the one that works. And then if you want to add these little notes of harmony, you just adjust the chord, just like we did. Rather than playing a G9, we added that finger for an altered chord. Okay. Now let's have a look at the next bit.
And let me actually stop you for just one quick
absolutely.
second. So just one quick thing. The book that he is referring to, I just want to say, is the Ukulele Reference Book. This is one that Matt Stead did. And he brought us our own copy, so I wanted to make sure to show you folks. And I'll also make sure that we write it in the chat too. It's really beautiful. I love, there's the color, it's color coded. There's great diagrams and things. It's a very lovely reference book. And then I had one question for you that somebody asked, which is they were asking about your color coding on your handout.
Oh, okay. Yep. So we'll take a look at. In fact, I'm really glad they asked that question. Me and Sarah were talking earlier about people asking questions, and sometimes it leads you down a rabbit hole in a good way because you get to talk about interesting things. Sometimes they remind you about something that you forgot to tell them. That's one of those occasions. So thank you. The blue, the box around those chords. That's there because later on in the sheet, if I whiz up, you'll find on your 5th page, what I've done is I've drawn that progression out really large so you can see what's happening with the fingers. And again, I'm so glad you mentioned this because the blue notes here are just telling you how these chromatic notes are going one higher with every chord. So can you see that? How the notes on the A string are progressing up 1 fret chromatically as we go. And that's what we're trying to achieve, to create that sense of movement. It's like, I sometimes call it a mini melody. It's like this mini chromatic melody within the piece. So those boxes are just to show you which diagrams you can look these up in greater detail. And we'll do it. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Thank you. We'll do that with the next ones as well. So if we go back to page 3, and we'll have a look at this pink box now. Now, my students in the UK will already know that I bang on about this thing all the time, right? Adding dynamics into your playing. Whatever you're doing, change it up, right? So every single line you're playing is more interesting. And this is what I've done here, right? So far we've had this movement on the A string going higher and higher. So what's the opposite of creating movement? It's creating no movement, right? It's literally finding a note and stopping on it. I'll show you how to play these chords in a second, but just have a listen. Notice that the note on the A string now, with every single one of these chords in a pink box, is that high E note here on the A string. Let me do that again. Can you hear that? And that's to create some dynamism. We've had lots of movements. Let's do the opposite thing. Let's create a lack of movement to create some interest. And the lovely thing about that is that when it finally moves down to that F minor 6, the 4th chord along, it's like, whew, that tension is released and it creates a lovely sense of movement. So if I put all 4 together, can you hear that? Staying on the same place. And then finally, a release. Now you don't have to ping that A string like I am there. That's just so you can hear that.
Now you have to.
You're literally, you can do. You can do.
No, actually, Matt, I want to do a quick segue.
Yeah, please do,
because
Craig.
one of the great things about that kind of common tone thing, you're gonna actually hear this a lot in like that golden age Hawaiian music as well.
Yes.
So like for example, let's say we're doing a vamp in G, and A7, D7, G. A lot of times you hear a common note using that let's say the 9 notes, so the B here. So which is a very similar use of like again those common tones in these progressions that creates like just enough of a difference that your ear kind of just jumps to it, like wow, what is that? That's sounding really cool.
Because then they have the chords now.
So we have the A7, add the 9, the D7 variation, we're adding keeping that B note on the top, and a G6 there. Instead of just the regular A7, D7, G. We have. Okay, thanks, Matt.
Now, Craig,
Yes.
I absolutely love it when stuff like that happens, right? Because I don't know if you did this on purpose or it's complete luck, but that illustrates what I was talking about earlier with chord choices, right? Because the first 2 chords that we've got there, A7 and D7, those are types of dominant chords, aren't they? If you just have a chord with just 7 written after it rather than major 7, that's a form of dominant chord. And what Craig did was he turned that A7 into a 9th. So if you have a 7th chord and you want to alter it, a 9th is a really good option. The D7 is a slightly more unusual because we've got that altered chord to have that note in the same place. But look at the G again. Remember if I said you're playing a major chord and you want a substitution, one of the first ones to try is a major 6. That's exactly what Craig did. So, yay, well done, Craig. I love it. Thank you.
It's like we plan. It's just like we rehearsed.
Yeah, exactly. We planned that, I promise. So let's have a go at that. First of all, these are just the chords in the pink box and the one afterwards. First of all, I'm going to show you how to do them the way I play them with bar chords. I'm also going to show you a little cheat. So if anyone's finding these chords really tricky, there's always going to be an easier way, which I'll show you, right? So the first chord, that C chord, what I've done is I've taken an F shape, okay? So imagine if you're playing an F down here, but you're keeping your index finger free for a bar. I've taken that F and I've moved it up to an F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C. So it's an F shape using my second and third fingers, and the index finger is barring. Okay, a little bit tricky, but again, if you remember all those little tips I gave you of the uke at this angle, using the lower part of your index finger, thumb on the back, you can get that for practice. The next one is really tricky, and there's 2 different ways you can play this. The way I think about it is it's like a G7 chord. Where are we? There we go. G7 chord, but without the index finger again, because we need to move it up. Now, as you move this one up, you can either bar the whole of the first fret, the one behind, or, because we only need to cover 1 string, you can just place that first finger on the G string. And we've taken that way up, right? We just keep going up and up and up until we reach the 5th, 6th and 7th frets, okay? And I tend to do it that way, rather than barring, which I find a bit, it's a bit more strenuous, isn't it? Why do that when it's harder? I tend to just leave that finger up there. Thanks, Craig. Yeah, that's brilliant. Excellent. Then the F major 7. Now again, we had a form of F chord, and an F is a major chord, and we've changed that over to a major 6 before. what we're doing is we're changing to a major 7. And for this one, I actually tend to just leave my little finger where it is and then just bar the whole of that 5th fret. Can you see that? Some people might find it more comfortable to change over to their 3rd finger at this point, on a ring finger. But because I was using that little finger already in the last chord, I find it easier to flatten. And then finally we have an F minor 6, and this is where it kind of just finally, you really reach a sense of relief, because that note that's been creating tension and being held is finally released. And again, there's always little tricks, isn't there, with these chords. Move your little finger down to the 5th fret, and then rather than playing, say, a D minor 7th shape, which would be like a D minor to the frets to the left, we're going to play that shape, but we're going to squeeze it. Now this is, even with Craig's excellent camera work, this is quite hard to show, right? What's happening is I have my little finger here, 5th fret. I have a D minor shape on the 4th and 5th fret, so we're doubling up. And we have that lovely F minor 6 chord. Now, for those of you that like cheats, and this isn't really a cheat, it's perfectly viable, we can simplify these chords to make them easier. All we're going to do is we're just going to play the notes that are on the C, E and A strings, right? The bottom 3 nearest the floor. So rather than that C7 being tricky using a bar chord here, what you can do, and this is perfectly valid and perfectly fine, just play a G major shape down at 7 and 8. Now, if you want to, if you're playing low G like me, or wrong G as Craig calls it, you might want to avoid hitting that note, just because it's a perfectly valid note, because what do we have here? We're on a C chord, right? Mm-hmm. There is a G note in a C chord, so it's perfectly fine, actually, to strum that string. But you might find on a low G, it's a little bit boomy, right? So on a low G, I'll tend to just strum those bottom 3. On a high G, you can get away with strumming all 4. But isn't that a lot more simple? So if you're struggling, these are perfectly valid and perfectly fine chords to substitute. The C7, we do exactly the same thing, and this can be really useful to remember this. So a C7 up the fretboard here, rather than having a G shape, guess what? Rather than a C being a G shape, C7 is a G7 shape. So we switch out to that G7 shape on frets 6 and 7. So just to go through that again, we've got C here using a G shape, and we switch back to a G7 shape 1 fret further back. And then just to continue that kind of consistency, for the F7, you could just bar the bottom 3 strings and just strum those bottom 3. And the F minor 6, you could even play a G7 shape here. Okay. So that would look something like this. Can you see? And then I take that back to here, and I pull that back here. So when we play this through, you do whatever feels most comfortable to you, okay? Everyone's learning, you've got to go at your own pace. You can either do the barred versions or that way.
Now, one little thing to add, which I'd love, Matt, too, is going back on how Matt said, depending on what you want your intent is, you might not hit that low G. But as you can see, once you have that low G and you're playing up the neck, you can create more depth in your playing. And that's why Benny Chong plays all the way down there and stretches all the way up. That's how you can get that incredible range. But even if you do hit that low G, when you're playing Matt too, you'll typically like graze it instead of a regular strum if you're looking to balance that out more.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Don't forget you have that option as well to just kind of. Could you demo that real quick with the low G?
Yeah, absolutely. So when let's take that C chord up fretboard, that F shape, the first one in the pink box. See, as I strum down, notice how I'm just dragging my thumb gently over the strings. Like Craig says, I'm just lightly grazing that G string. And even if I'm doing a full strum, hard to show, but can you see? You're not really hearing a really boomy low G there.
Super light.
Yeah, super light. Another thing you can try if you want a really light sound, and funny enough, when I saw Craig the other day, we were talking about this on different ukuleles, you might change your strumming technique completely to suit the ukulele. And something that I'll often do on a low G, I tend to strum with my nail. You'll see I've got quite kind of long nails on my on my right hand. I get funny looks from people when I give them change in shops and things. So I tend to use my nail when I strum down, but sometimes when I'm doing progressions like this, I'll actually just strum with the pad of my thumb. Can you see how that gives a whole different sound? If I do that first bit especially, it creates more of that kind of, it's almost like that Lyle Ritz sound, isn't it? He used to use that kind of really mellow thumb strum. So kind of experiment and see what works for you. So the main thing I want you to take away so far, right, is that we're creating chordal movement by creating those little mini melodies using chromaticism, or we're doing completely the opposite, right? The next section is pretty much as we had before, right? This is the bottom line. Oh, hang on. So that I don't get told off again, which is quite right. I'm glad I did. Let me show you this page here. Page 5. This is just a really nice diagram, literally showing you what's happening there. Notice that the pink dot is staying exactly the same place on all 3 of those chords. And then when it finally goes back here to this F minor 6, finally it kind of resolves itself. Okay. So let's try the next line, just so we finish the first page. How are we doing for time, Sarah? Are we all right?
We're doing fine.
Excellent, excellent. So the bottom line, this is kind of interesting, even though there's not a lot going on in terms of chord substitutions. It's kind of just interesting in the chords that I chose for this. So I have that C chord again, which is like a B flat moved up, right? Then I'm going to come back to this form of A minor, where I'm playing 2 0 0 3 from nose to toes. That means I'm playing the 2nd fret of the G string, 3rd fret of the A string. There is another version where we could play an A minor 7 like this, but that's really tricky for a lot of people, isn't it? That bending the finger backwards. So I've gone for a slightly simpler one to give you a bit of a break, because we've been doing some tough things up the fretboard. But it's still important, because note, I'm going from up here. See how I'm working my way down, back down through the fretboard to bring me back to first position. So when you're making your own arrangements, think about those chords that you can kind of transition to bring yourself back down the fretboard. And then to finish that section, just like Sarah was using, little finger for the C, add that D minor shape on for the F6, back to C, and then we have an E7, and that's another one of those dominant chords which creates a bit of tension. Doesn't feel finished, does it? It's like it wants to go somewhere. So that takes us into our next section. Okay, everyone all right so far, do we think?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
good. That's the right answer.
Yeah. And people, one of the biggest things people are saying in the chat, besides the fact that they are enjoying themselves, is they love the new up-close angle, Craig, because they can see how beautiful his instrument is.
Oh, bless
the
you.
details.
It's really handy, actually, because I can see what Craig's doing on a monitor here, and it's great. It means I don't have to do that, right? So it's really great.
So again, this is actually because of the support from our live streams and Artist Works. We reinvest that into gear that we use to further what we can do with our guests and and our production. So thank you guys out there so much. We will always try to reinvest in what we do and back into the ukulele community as well. So and again, this is kind of how we were able to jumpstart the Backyard Concert Series.
Yep.
So thank you.
So thank you guys for your support.
If anyone wants to donate for another camera,
Oh, goodness me. Oh, my gosh.
use 1 or 2 more.
Oh, my gosh. Everyone gets a close-up. You get a close-up. You get a close-up. But go ahead, Matt.
It's going to be like Steven Spielberg in here soon, isn't it? It's amazing. Love it, love it. I actually think, why don't we go back and try the whole of that first page really slowly? I'm going to put Sarah on the spot, if that's right, and ask if she'll sing along with me.
Sure.
The reason I'm really putting her on the spot is I want us to play this really slow to give you a chance to do his chord changes. Right, you've just learnt that. So if there's no way everyone's going to keep up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slowly strum down those with my thumb. 2 strums, because we've got 2 beats for each chord. It does mean that Sarah's going to, 1, 2, have to sing really slowly.
It's all right.
She's a professional.
I can wing it.
So come in, we'll do the whole of that first page really slowly. Okay, Sarah will sing. Remember when you get to that pink box, you've got those alternative, slightly easier shapes to do. Just give it your best. If you go wrong, we're all friends. It doesn't matter, right? I might go wrong. It's all cool. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2 C's. C sharp diminished 7. D minor 7.
All by
G7.
myself.
Yeah. Next line. C.
No one
C7.
to walk
Yeah.
with,
F6.
but I
Just flip those fingers
happy
round.
on the shelf.
C chord.
Aint
A minor 7.
misbehavin.
Get those fingers ready for D minor 7.
I'm saving
G7.
my love for
E7.
you.
A7. D7. Now we're going up the fretboard, the G7, second position. Blue chords.
I know
Back
for
to the
certain
Whole of the 5th fret barred.
the
G9
one
out.
I love.
Way up now to 7, 8, 9.
I'm
Good.
through with
C7.
flirting. It's
G7.
just
Back to the
you
F minor 6.
I'm thinking of.
C.
Ain't
Back to the A minor.
misbehavin',
D minor 7.
saving my
G7.
love for
C.
you. I'm
F6.
saving all my love for you.
There we go. And an E7. Thanks, Sarah. That was
Yeah.
gorgeous. Thank you. Really lovely. So there we go. It's creating a sense of drama, isn't it? It's that sense of movement. That's what we're after. Now, if we flip to the next page along, so we've got these chords here with a kind of orangey yellow box, kind of sand colour box, for the sand of the Waikiki beach, hey? Now, here we have something that's often called line cliché. Now, there's a lot of these fancy pants terms, I call them, for kind of a music theory term, if you like. But all we're doing here is creating another one of those little chromatic runs. As I play through these chords, see if you can just about hear a little run. Now this time the run is happening on the E string. The reason this is often called line cliché is where we've got one chord, in this case an A minor, and underneath it we have a melodic movement, but the chord is basically staying the same, okay? We could call that F chord a type of A minor as well, but I'm just going to keep it as F to keep it simple. But it's almost like we've got one chord with a melody underneath, and that's line cliché. Happens all the time. You've probably heard it in something like something in the way she moves that attracts me, right? We're just playing forms of C chords and just moving down that melody. We've got the same thing here. Again, let me show you how to do it physically, and then after that, what I'd like to do is show you a way of picking out that note so that it's really highlighted. So, first of all, we're going to play an A minor. Now, make sure you're using your second finger for that one, okay? And just strum down. Now, in this part of the song, if you remember, we've got 4 beats on every chord, so we're going to strum 4 times. 2, 3, 4. We just add that index finger down for an F chord. Again, 2 chords with the same shape but different names. This looks like a Hawaiian D7, but we're going to call it an A minor 6 because of the context. Now you could just keep this finger where it is and move this finger up for this next chord. But I really like the sound of this C sharp note, sorry, here on this C string. It just gives it the sound of that third from the chord, which I really like. Let's go through that slowly again. A minor. Then we hit that F chord, index finger. Ring finger down for this D7. Whoops, there it is. And I actually use my little finger, or you could move your ring finger up. for this next one. Now, because that melody is on the E string, right, we have this. It doesn't stand out as much as the notes that we're doing on the A string, right? And that's just literally physics. It's because the last note that we hear when we strum and the melody's on the A string, the last note that we hear is that one. Whereas in this one, it's kind of hidden in the chord. So something that I like to do to really highlight that note is rather than just doing thumb strums down or index finger if you're strumming, what I'll do, before I put a strum, I'll pick up on the E string with my index finger. So I'm literally just picking that E string with my index finger. I do the same thing on this F1. Same on this A minor 6. Can you hear those notes now really kind of sounding out? You could do it gently like that, or even with a strum. Like that. And suddenly we've highlighted those little melody notes, that line cliche, which is really nice. Does it remind anyone of James Bond?
Yes, I was going to say, it totally sounds like James Bond.
Yeah, there's loads of those little chromatic runs, isn't there? Sort of, So yeah, it's got a nice kind of James Bond quality to it. Now, again, kind of just adding that little kind of mini melody, it creates a sense of movement and it makes things much more interesting rather than just, this is fine, nothing wrong. But notice, especially on low G, all the chords pretty much sound the same. So this is what we're trying to get a sense of movement.
Can I
Yeah,
jump in
absolutely.
real
Please
quick?
do, Sarah.
So one quick thing. Somebody asked a great question in the chat, and I learned something new today because I actually had to look it up. The difference between line cliché, which is what you're doing here, and voice leading. So line cliché, you have one chord. And essentially, as Matt mentioned, you've got this A minor chord where you're just changing one note throughout this A minor chord. Versus if I was playing like C sharp diminished to help me get to the next chord. And so the voice leading that he actually is showed you earlier in verse 1, for example, where you're doing your D minor, or sorry, what was that? D minor, where you're moving up your A string, that's more like voice leading because you're switching your chords up. So thank you for asking that great question and making me having to look it up to make sure I could answer it.
That's it. That's brilliant. Yeah. Isn't it amazing? We're always learning new stuff, isn't it? I still find that after years and years, and it's just amazing. And that's a brilliant thing about this instrument. It keeps giving, right? Just wonderful. And again, as if by magic, Sarah's led me on to something brilliant here. Because,
we rehearsed this.
Yeah. Now, I haven't really highlighted these next 4 chords in any colour. Okay, this bit here. Again, I'll show you how to play them in a second. But if we stick with the E string, have a listen what's happening. Sound familiar? Again, another chromatic bit of movement. Now, I'm really glad that Sarah brought up that point, because here we have line cliché, because we have one chord with movement underneath it. Here, we've got just traditional voice leading in that each of these chords is leading smoothly into the next one as we go on up. Okay, so this next bit is a little bit tricky, but let me talk you through it. There are ways to make it easier. Also, it kind of leans on something Craig and Sarah were talking about earlier. This section here, Your Kisses Are Worth Waiting For, that G chord was held for 4 beats, right?
Yep.
And to me, it always felt like it needed a sense of movement. It felt like it needed to go somewhere. And again, this is one of the things I want you to take away from today. Diminished chords are your friend. I wanted to create a chord in between this G chord and this A minor 7 because that's a bit of a leap. Now, especially when you're playing jazz and blues stuff, my go-to chord for filling a gap is a diminished 7th chord. And there's a really cool thing about it. Generally, when I'm playing a major chord such as G, that's not a G. What is that? That's way up from the G. That's a G. See, I'm still going wrong sometimes. So we go from this G. Now, when we're looking for the diminished seventh, which will follow on smoothly from a major chord, it tends to be the sharp above it. So if I'm playing a G and I want a diminished seventh, the one that I'll tend to use is a G sharp diminished seventh. G, G sharp. Again, it makes sense with something we did earlier, because at the first part of the song, C, C sharp diminished seventh. They follow nicely. So that's one way you can find which diminished seventh to use. The other way is trial and error, right? If I know that this shape can move up and down the fretboard, I just go, ba, ba. Oh no, that doesn't sound right. Ba, ba. No, that doesn't sound right. Ba, ba. That sounds right. Trial and error. You can just move it up and down right to find the one that works. So that's what I've done here. Again, a tricky change, but what you can do is you can take that G major chord, move that shape, keep those fingers and take them up a fret, actually 2 frets, sorry, and place that G major shape on the top 3 strings physically, G, C and E strings. Put your little finger down on that A string at 5th. So if I do that slow motion, look, G comes up and over, little finger down. With a bit of practice, you'll get that. The next chord is lovely because our fingers are already on exactly the right strings. All we need to do is push the 3rd and 4th fingers up to the 7th fret. So I've gone from here, I move these 2 up and stretch out. Other people, again, your mileage may vary. Other people prefer to play that as a bar chord like this.
Yeah.
Some people prefer it this way. I think you play those as bar chords, don't you, Craig, when you play?
No.
Use
No,
No?
Always doing
that's
spread.
rough. That's rough.
Craig does
hard.
the spread.
That's hard.
I've seen some people do there, don't they? Right? They kind of they'll add that one in there, but I think that's much more comfortable.
Yeah.
You're more likely to get 4 clear notes coming out, whereas this one, even there's a little bit. I'm having to really squish hard not to get that kind of muffled note. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. We're going to go back to this G chord here. Okay, just strum these twice. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 Gs. Take it up and over. Stretch it out. And then we stay where we are on the 5th fret, bar the 5th fret, and our 2nd finger comes down here on the 6th fret of the C string. That gives you a lovely D7 up the fretboard. One final part. You're nearly there. You've nearly done all the chordal movement in this piece now. Woohoo! We're doing it! We're doing it! Have a listen to this next bit, right? So, the original kind of had a D7 here. G7 here. Oh, I'm a bit out of tune. I'll sort that in a minute, guys.
Yeah, I think it's the G.
Yeah, let me just, I'll tell you what. Oh, it would be, wouldn't it? Wrong G. Oh. You're right. It is as well. Right, talk amongst yourselves. It won't be a second.
Well, while you are tuning, can you tell people about the inlay on your uke? Because that has been a question that's come up a couple of times.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, this is where Jake, that's my other luthier. This is where Bo is really, really clever. This is, where are we? That way. Yeah, got it. So this is actually the River 7. So this is kind of a uke, as I said, that's been kind of years in the making, and I wanted it to be a really, really special uke to me because I wanted it to be one of a kind. And Bo was talking about, what kind of things mean most to you? And to me, the things that mean most to me are home, sense of place where I live, and family. And the River 7 kind of connects together all the places I've lived in the west of England in my life. So I was born, believe it or not, up here in Tewkesbury. And this is from a map. This is the exact bend
cool.
of the River 7. You can actually take a canoe down this if you're careful. So that's Tewkesbury, where I was born. Way down here is Bristol. And Sarah and Craig, you've played there, haven't you, in the cafe that we did? Mm-hmm. And over here is the Forest of Dean, and this is where I live now. So this river ties together all the places I've lived in my life. So it's really special to me. So those that know me know that I'm a bit over emotional at best of times, so I was a bit tearful last night when I got this. I absolutely love it. And this bit here, Bo couldn't decide how to kind of make the river flow down the fretboard, so he's trying to think, how could I kind of make it interesting? So he kind of created all these little channels. It's like almost like an octopus, isn't it? Can I show him one more cool thing?
Yeah.
With it?
Oh, of course.
I don't know if I
Please.
could do this. Let's see if I could get it to focus. If you turn it in a certain light, let me go that way. In this part of the river,
yeah.
there's an inlay that says, "Here be
Hold on.
dragons" in Latin.
What?
Yeah, I know,
Wow.
it's
think
mad,
Craig's
right?
gonna try to do. He's trying to. Do
Yeah,
something with-
yeah.
He's trying to do something with the camera. Hold on. Let's see.
It's super clever. So if you hold it at this angle, you can't see anything at all.
Okay.
And then if I gradually tip it, see if it appears. You can probably just make out the lettering starting to come
Oh,
through.
whoa.
If you're where I'm sat, you can actually see the text now. And just here,
That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
nuts.
here be
Yes.
dragons in Latin.
Oh,
And that's
awesome.
really lovely because it's kind of like an old map, of the antique finish.
Yeah.
But also, I'm 1/4 Welsh, so the dragons from the Welsh flag
Yes.
as well. So, yeah, that was
Aw.
another surprise. He's a lovely Bo. He does all these cool things. So,
Can we
there we go.
showcase that little cutaway?
Yeah, people were like, "Let me see
Yeah.
the cutaway."
So we've got this cool kind of cutaway up here, which already I'm finding really comfortable when I'm playing chords and kind of melodies up here. There we go. Yeah, that's nice and sharp. And then down this end, we've got another cutaway arm bevel for the arm. So it means when I'm strumming, it keeps it really comfortable. It's just kind of chamfered. And it's a redwood top. And then because I'm in Hawaii, koa back
Aw,
and
look at
sides.
that sap line.
I know, it's such, I
Beautiful.
love a sap line. Oh, and the neck is sunburst
Look at
flame
that.
maple, which is really
Whoa.
pretty as well. Whee.
Whee, zhoo.
Wow, it's like being at the opticians. That's the prescription I want. There we go. So there you go, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel so blessed to have this. Honestly, it's just it plays itself as well. It's lovely.
All I know though is you are gonna be the most stressful person on the airplane.
Yeah, I know. It's like I'm gonna have to smuggle it in, I think, underneath my seat. So yeah, that's not going in the hold. That's for sure. He's coming with me. So yeah.
We'll have some tips later.
Yes.
I almost want to lend you our double case, so
Oh.
people don't try to stuff. Because most of the time, you run into issues when people think there's room,
Yeah.
and then they with
shove.
single ukes or smaller uke cases, they just get packed in. But the
Yeah.
double, the fusion double case is so nice because you can tell like that's full. You don't.
Yeah,
No one's
totally.
gonna be messing with.
Yeah.
It.
We've been quite lucky as well. I know it's always a bit of a bit of pot luck, but American Airlines have been really good with us travelling
Oh,
with
good.
ukes. I've found that. So
Good.
yeah, nobody's maybe put anything in the hold yet. Fingers crossed.
Yes.
So let's finish this off then. So let's have a look at the next section. So where do we get to? I believe we're here at the green section here. So this is another little kind of run. So now I'm tuned up, hopefully. Yeah, good enough, isn't it? So traditionally this would go D7, G7, A7, D7. Okay, sounds all right. It's nice. But have a listen to this. If I do these shapes. Again, you don't have to pick out those notes, but just to really highlight them. Can you hear that little chromatic run coming down? And again, I'm adding variety because the last one went up, then we stayed in one place, and now this time we're coming down, okay? So that's why it's there. And again, this is what I want you to think about with your arrangements. We're coming back down for another go of the verse, so we want to kind of head in that direction, right? So it's kind of putting together chords that fit together really nicely, voice-led, smooth, and creates this sense of movement, okay? So what I did is, rather than a G7 here, what I'm playing is basically a movable E7 moved up to the 4th and 5th frets, and then this finger's coming down here. Now, if you can play an F7, you can play that G7 because it's literally just that moved up to. Now, here's another little tip that really helps. And Craig, you keep that on there. That's brilliant, actually. This really helps. If you're moving between chords and you want it to be smooth and you don't want your fingers to have to kind of build from nothing, always see if you can keep certain fingers on certain strings. And from this chord, I can keep this little finger here, or pinky as I'm in America, right?
Yes.
And ring finger here. Those two can stay on the strings they're on. I move them back to the 4th fret. I put this one down here, make sure I'm on the right string. Yeah, there we go. So it's like a G7 shape, right, for my last few fingers. And then this one comes up here. So rather than having to do this, take everything off, and then it's like, I've got to kind of create this chord, we can smooth it out. Last 2 stay where they are, these 2 flip around. Okay, and again, you don't need to throttle that uke there to get that note. Just reach up. Okay, not too bad. Look at this next bit, right? I can smooth this one down into this D7. And then finally, you probably don't need any help with this one. G7 at the end, okay? So again, let's put that together super slow. Come in after 4. Start with this G7 here. Just the ones in the green box. 2, 3, 4. G7 twice. Pull back and rearrange. Flatten down. And finally, that G7 at the end. And we've got that lovely sense of movement. And again, just with all the other ones, if you have a look at the very last page, here you can see this chromatic movement literally just going down 1 fret at a time, and that's what we're after. And I didn't even have to alter those chords, did I? I've just got a G7 chord, you know, just bog standard G7, but up the fretboard, an A7, a D7 and a G7. So it's just using the right chord choices to get that sense of movement, which is really lovely. And up here, I think I forgot to mention this one. If you're doing the B section, okay, that like Jack Horner, this is just showing you what's happening here, that we again have that chromatic movement going up. And that's what I want you to do after you finish this session. Before you play through, take a look at these last 2 sheets, this one here and this one here, and kind of get a sense of that movement, see if you can work out what's going on with that. Okay, let's just finish this off then. So let's piece that together. So we'll go back to this one here. We'll go right back to the orange chords, okay? So we're doing this one here. You can either just strum down, or you can pick out those melody notes as I was showing you, okay, that way. Okay, let's go dead slow. Sarah, do you fancy singing again? It would be super slow. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Like Jack Horner in the corner. Don't go nowhere, what do I care?
G.
Your kisses
Spread apart.
are
D7.
worth waiting
G7. A7.
Believe.
Let's keep going. The blue box.
I don't stay
Going up
out
again.
Don't
That
can
lovely
go.
altered chord. Way up.
I'm home about
Whoops.
8, just me
And back
and
to the F
my
minor 6.
radio.
Yeah, lovely. Notice we're coming
Ain't
down here.
misbehaving,
D minor 7.
saving my love.
And I slow at this point. I'm going to talk to you about this chord in a minute, but a C, C6/9. That's my go-to if I'm ending a jazz song and I'm not being too inventive. A 6/9 chord just always sounds great.
Yes.
Okay, and it's easy peasy, right? That's C6/9. It's like a D7th chord like this. Only this second finger isn't just covering one string; it's covering the bottom 2 strings. So rather than that D7, here, and we could really ham it up, couldn't we, with a kind of a nice shake at the end if we wanted to.
Yeah.
So again, C6/9, that's just another form of major chords. So major chords, if you're switching out, majors, try 6, 6/9 and major 7ths. Dominant chords, try 9ths and 13ths. Minor chords, similar to the majors, minor 6, minor 6/9, minor 7. Those are my go-to ones. You can experiment way more than that and have loads of fun with it, but that's the way to piece it together. So there we go, that's the whole piece.
All right, so first off, thank you, Matt. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Well, I have a couple little things that I wanted to bring up, and then can we actually play it a few times?
Yeah,
through
that'd be
and
cool.
Try out those different variations. Couple little things. G7, A7. Whenever you're dealing with G7, A7, a couple little tricks there is that instead of this all four finger G7, you know, we can go to this gigantic looking G7 here, which is 0, 5, 3, 5. And the beautiful thing about this is that if you're going to an A7 right away, you can just bring this back. And it looks like a small G7 again, but we're going from a big G7 to a small G7. And it works perfectly fine. Again, we can go a small G7 to an A7 there. So it's pretty much the same chord here as your A7, but we can double up on that G note for that A7 as well. So a couple little tricks there.
Sounds best on high G.
Sounds best on high G. For the 6/9 chord at the end, I have trouble using my index and middle a lot in this kind of shape because I'm taking my longest finger and squishing him down to the bottom two. Even like the D7 like this, I tend to use my middle finger for the bar and then my ring finger for either the 6/9 chord or for just like the D7 chord. For those of you who have, you know, stiffer fingers, this can help a lot. It's again just preference at this point, but just want to make sure we can talk about that. The other little thing I was going to bring up, for those of you who've been following our lessons for a while, or even our artist work students, we mentioned, we mentioned this chord a lot, this C6 A minor 7 shape. And a lot of times we're wondering, oh, why would I learn such a hard shape? When would I use that? So this is a perfect example of how we can utilize this and create even more movement up the neck. And Matt did such a great job on showcasing it. And what this is going to do is just give you a few steps to add, utilizing again the same exact shapes that you've been doing over and over and over. So for, again, the C6 shape is the bar 2 with the index. I'm pretty much touching 3 strings with my middle finger to make it a little bit easier on that bend compared to just the bottom 2 strings. And then with my ring finger on the C string. Alright, so let's say, like Matt said, on a verse you wanted to do something even more extreme or different to make it even more interesting to the ears. We can start with the C6. For the C sharp diminished, we're right there, 3, 4, 3, 4. And again, like as Matt said, especially these diminished shapes, they're all repeated, right? So if we were to do it, the original from here, 0, 1, 0, 1, up 3 frets, would be 3, 4, 3, 4. So we have the C6, C sharp diminished, 3, 4, 3, 4. I'm only doing 2 hits right now. The D minor 7, we can bar that 5. And what we'll do here is kind of like a little breath, a little reset, but we'll do that G9, which is that bar 4, middle finger on 5, 5, 5 on the bottom 3 strings. We'll do a strum, but then add that sharp 5. That leads us to the C6 there. So it's C6 up here is 5, 7, 5, 7. Again, same shapes that we've been doing for a long, long time, right? So again, it's going to go from the C6 here, C sharp diminished, D minor 7, G9, sharp 5, C6. Now the beautiful thing about this C6 is that the next chord is a C7, which all we have to do is push up that middle finger, up 1 fret.
Sorry.
5, 7, 6, 7. And then for the next F, we'll play an F6 up here, which looks exactly like that C6 that we started with, but on the 7th fret.
It's on the 7?
Yep.
Okay.
Sarah's doing it as fast as she can. And again, this wasn't really planned, but this is just to showcase again how tied in everything really is. For the F minor, F minor 7.
Yeah. Yeah. Or the double bar, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that guy. Was that the minor 6?
What fret?
7, 8, 8, 8. And then for the C6, we'll play it all the way up here, which again, you played the shape all day already. This looks like a D minor 7 or an F6. This is going to be 9, 9, 8, 10. And then where are we? We are at
A minor 7?
the A minor 7.
Or A minor.
Oh yeah, so then we can start walking back down A minor 7, which is the same as a C6, 5, 7, 5, 7. We can start walking things back down just as Matt did earlier, the D minor 7 to the G9.
How quick can you?
G9.
And then 4, 5, 5, 5 to the E7. You can just do
And then
4, 4, 4, 5.
Yeah, that's what I think he did.
And then the rest is just walking it down to the
Yeah,
A7,
got it.
to the D7, to the G7.
Yeah. Nice. Would you go through and play it for us, Craig?
Yeah, is it 4 hits per?
It's actually 2.
Oh, so C6, diminished, bar 5, D minor 7, G9, sharp 5, C6, 5, 7, 5, 7. Squish up the middle finger.
7.
To D minor 7
Yeah.
there. To
And then 7 again. Double bar. Yeah.
and then where am I? The
8th fret.
C6,
Yeah. A
and then walk
minor
it down.
D minor, G9. Yeah.
And another use for this too is, especially if you're playing with another person, a lot of times Sarah and I will arrange things where if I'm going up the fretboard, she's going to go down on her voicing. So we have this kind of crisscross that happens, and it's a really beautiful way to, again, create movement and have more interest in that. But yeah, again, a lot of the stuff we already frequented. So again, part of it is utilizing how we can get these different chords up the neck, playing the exact same shapes, and having some fun with that. So Matt, really, really great job again.
Yeah. Well, and the thing I love about this is how you can take the concepts that Matt's showing you and take it even further.
Yeah,
That's what
exactly.
basically what Craig is talking about is he's shown you the shapes, and those shapes are everywhere on your instrument. You can move them and fiddle around with all of them and create all kinds of cool stuff with it. So definitely like have fun with all of these cool shapes. You can also find more shapes in this book, the Ukulele reference book by our Mr. Matt Stead. But I also see you have another author joining you too, John Theophilus as well. I don't want to just say it's only Matt.
It's quite interesting actually. He's one of my students.
Yeah.
And for years he was saying, can you just kind of put together all of the reference stuff I need
Yeah.
for your classes in one book? And I was like, yeah, but I haven't got the time. I'm too busy teaching. So he said, well, you tell me what to do. You tell me where to put the dots and I'll do it. So he did all that. He put the legwork
Well, like
in.
there's
which is
beautiful
amazing.
color coding of like your chords. There's great chord diagrams. He also has like all of the scale modes.
Oh,
so there's
well, my main question, Matt,
lot of
now
stuff.
is easy to get this book from you in the UK. For those of us in the US, how might they get
So
said book?
there's two different ways. If you email me, I can send a PayPal invoice with the shipping on for the States. If you try and just buy it automatically from the website goes, I don't know what to do, and it adds a ton of shipping on. So
Oh, no.
if in doubt, send me an email, just Matt
How
at
many
the
did you bring
Upreen.
down with you?
Only one. Sorry.
darn. Okay.
I didn't have room in my suitcase.
We need to chat.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll send some over. But the other thing is, I've also got a PayHip version which you can download.
Oh, nice.
You can download it. So a lot of my students have downloaded it and put it on their iPad, for
Nice.
instance,
That's great.
because then you can swipe through particular parts, which is really useful. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Hey Craig, just before we play it, can I
Yes.
just do one more teaching point?
Yes,
'Cause I think
please.
it's
Of
kind of
course.
interesting.
Do you need the iPad?
Might be useful just to show you one thing. Brilliant.
Yes, sir,
All I wanted to highlight. Oh, can I grab my book as well? Actually, 'cause that
Yeah.
could be useful. So when thanks, Sarah.
Yeah,
It's
of
like
course.
grabbing it off you. all I wanted to highlight was, did you notice that when Craig did his chords up the fretboard, how many of these chords are either minor sevenths? Whoops, I'm going, oh, I did
hold
something
on.
funny there.
That's because I did something.
Thank
Hold on.
you.
Here's the highlighter.
Perfect. So many of these chords are
Yep.
sixth chords or minor seventh chords.
Yep.
Look at that.
Exact
So
same,
many
yep.
of them. They're everywhere, right? And what can be really useful to know is that these are because every major chord has a minor equivalent, okay? So every C major chord has a minor equivalent of A minor. Now, that, again, it doesn't sound like that useful so far, but let me show you something that's cool with it. If you know that all of your strings open are a C6, they can also be called an A minor 7. Okay. So when we did the circle of fifths, the minor chord in the inside would be a minor 7th, and the major on the outside would be a 6. So you have two chords for the price of one, right? If we know that this is C6, it's also A minor 7. If you do that lovely C6 that Craig was showing you here, that is also A minor 7, right?
Yep.
If you know that this chord here is an F6, the inside circle on this circle of fifths would be a D minor, because that's a minor equivalent. So this is a D minor 7. So if you can start to learn a few of those, it will really help you with your playing. You can either use the circle of fifths to find the minor equivalent. So remember, if it's a 6, the minor equivalent will be a minor 7. So F6 equals D minor 7. The other way I do it, which is kind of a quick way of doing it without a book, is you could just count up or down. I find it easier to count up. It's just the way I do it. So if you count up from C, C, D, E, F, G, A, we've got C6 to A minor 7, right? Mm-hmm. Works with F6. If we go from F6, F, G, A, B flat, don't worry about Y, C, D. Okay, we've gone 6 up from F gives you D, so F6 equals D minor 7. It's just a really handy thing because you can see how many of those chords here are using either those 6th or minor 7th chords. So just something that really helped me when I was learning this kind of way of playing.
Perfect.
Fantastic. So also, you guys out there, just to let you know, this is being recorded. We will have a replay up. So if you're like, oh no, all of those chords, I didn't get them all written down. Don't worry. You can. That's a beautiful thing about video and being able to pause. Is once the replay is up, you can go back and rewatch this and relive our wonderful time together and write those chords down. Because I don't know if I'm going to have time to update the packet. If I do, I'll try. And maybe I can make that like an addition that's like written in music notation but we'll see.
Best way to stay on point on that is just make sure you're subscribed to our mailing list.
Yes.
That way, if we have time to do that, we'll just we'll send out that extra sheet.
Yeah. Awesome. And then Diaper Club folks, don't forget, if you have purchased the Diaper Club, that comes with a chord melody of this song, but using only the bass version, the very first version we played. And I go through that one. It's like a mini lesson. I actually just recorded it yesterday. It's a mini lesson that I go through and show you why I make the choices I make, etc. And I'm going to be emailing a link to that video out to the Diaper Club folks. You can always upgrade your packet if you're like, oh, I wanted that. You just send us an email, chimazel@gmail.com. We can work it out so you can get a hold of that chord
Before
melody.
we get started, a couple housekeeping things. We do
Yes.
have our next backyard concert with Neil Chin, April 24th. Make sure you're joining us for the live premiere. You get a chance to win some extra goodies.
Yahoo!
As well as an extra entry to win that beautiful Ko'aloha ukulele. Coming up in early May, we do have
Yay!
our virtual ukulele mini retreat with Jake and Herb.
Yes.
That looks amazing.
That's gonna be so
And
fun.
one of the biggest highlights I think of this though is we are going to be doing a collaboration video with our retreat students, and if you want to be in that video with us and Jake and Herb, because it's going to be all of us playing together, you'll want to join us for this. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay, and Matt, can we go through the form once, relatively slow?
Yeah.
But then we'll take it again at speed, as if we were to actually perform it.
That sounds great. Yeah. One more tune, I promise. Sorry.
I got a whole bunch of extra high G strings that just like solve that.
While we do that, what I'll do is I'll actually scroll and just sing, so that way we can
I'm
do
nearly
all
there.
of that.
When you think how long it took to grow the tree and then chop it down and then turn it into a ukulele, the tune is not too bad. Okay.
So, all right, are we gonna do the fancy version?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So should we go through kind of super slow, just those kind of 2 down strums on each one?
Oh, I don't have to scroll if we're not showing it on screen. Or do you want to show it on screen?
Sure.
Oh, we could do that. Okay, great.
Okay, so after 4?
Sure. Tempo del Lerno.
Yeah.
Nice and
1,
slow.
2, 3, 4.
No one to talk with. All by myself. No one to walk with. But I'm happy on the shelf. Ain't misbehaving. Saving my love for you. The blue box?
Yeah.
I know for certain the one I love. I'm through with flirting. It's just you I'm thinking of. Ain't misbehaving. I'm saving my love for you. The E7. Next page. Here we go. Like Jack Horner in the corner. Don't go nowhere. What do I care? Your kisses are worth waiting for. Believe me. I don't go out late. Don't care to go. I'm home about 8, just me and my radio. Ain't misbehaving. I'm saving my love for you. Aw, a little faster? How you guys feeling?
Yeah.
Let's do it. It's kind of fun singing this as a ballad.
Yeah, it's kind of like a
gosh.
Nina Simone-esque or something, isn't it?
I love it. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Nice. And thank you, Diane, for reminding people to hit the like button. Yes, we want people to be able to like this session, and please share it with your friends. It's free after all.
Oh my gosh. I forgot to say, in May also,
Oh my gosh, yes.
the weekend after the virtual, 2 weekends after the virtual retreat.
If you like jazz.
If you like jazz, you want to go to the Ukulele Jazz Fest. Ukulele Jazz
Festival,
Ukulele Jazz Fest.
hosted by Diane Nalini and her husband Adrian Cho. Carol P. actually just put the link in the chat.
Oh,
Thank you,
nice.
Carol. You were always on top of it.
Oh, thank you, Carol.
So thank you. It's going to be a lot of fun. Last year was a blast, and this year, I think instead of a dual workshop, I think Craig and I are each teaching a workshap. It'll be a lot of fun.
That's going to be fun. You can help celebrate my birthday that weekend.
That's right.
I turned 21 on the 24th. So
Woo!
it's gonna be-
Yay. That's when
Yes.
add a couple on.
All right, let's give it a go. However fast
Yes, whatever
you think
speed you want. You
Yeah.
choose the pace.
About here.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Do you
Yeah.
think? Yeah. Yeah.
Let's
cool.
give it a shot.
1, 2, here we go.
One to talk with, all by myself. No one to walk with, but I'm happy on the shelf. Ain't misbehaving, saving my love for you. I know for certain the one I love. I'm through with flirting, it's just you I'm thinking of. Ain't misbehaving, saving my love for you. E7, like Jack Horner in the corner. Don't go nowhere, what do I care? Your kisses are worth waiting for. Believe me, I don't go out late, I don't care to go. I'm home about 8, just me and that radio. Ain't misbehaving, I'm saving my love for you. Yeah! How fun! Matt Stead, thank you
Thank
so
you.
very, very much.
Thank you so much as well.
Ah.
It's been absolute delight to come over here, and thanks for hosting us as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
Again, if
been
you're in the
really-
UK, check out the Uke Room.
Yes.
Check out Matt Stead. He's performing, teaching everywhere. If you're hosting events here in the US, think about bringing him down for that. That would be a ton of fun.
You can always check out his YouTube channel. Carol P. actually listed it earlier in the chat, and knowing her, she's probably searching for it and listing it again in the chat for us. And feel free to email him as well. He is always really sweet about getting back in touch. And just thank you again, Matt, for bringing such a
No
great lesson.
problem.
Yeah, huge shout out to Carol for doing all of the hard work. In the
Oh my
chat
God,
today.
Carol's the best.
Yeah.
Could I just say quickly, guys, if anyone's interested in my teaching, I created a website. It was loads of work, but I'm really chuffed with it. Where all my YouTube courses are sequential, so kind of
Woohoo!
right from the start, getting
Nice.
progressively
That's brilliant.
more interesting and difficult. And it's quite hard to find stuff on YouTube, right? It's kind
Yeah.
of a bit higgity-piggity. So I've created a website. It's just mattsteadukulele.com. Stead,
Nice.
S-D-A-D. And it lists every course. I think there's 6 courses on there: beginners, intermediate, next steps, up the dusty end. And it lists every video in order, so you can just work through sequentially. And it's all free. So
Beautiful.
mattsteadukulele.com.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
What was I gonna say? How chuffed? You have to explain what chuffed means.
Chuffed.
to our-
Oh, did I say that? Oh, I'm having so many problems with people understanding me. Chuffed means delighted, happy to be
Yeah.
here. If you say you're dead chuffed, you're really happy and appreciative. So I'm dead chuffed you guys
'Cause
invited
it sounds
me over
like a
here.
negative thing, right? I'm chuffed. Like it sounds like you're angry, right?
Yeah.
I was so confused when I first heard that term. Now I know yonks.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Which is even more confusing because it's not even its own thing. It's
Right, it's
based
donkey's
off
years.
Donkey's years, which is its own weird thing. Like, so slowly, kind of.
We're getting there. We just need to make another trip back over to help us with our language skills.
Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
yesterday I said to one of the house how works, I said, can you tell me where the loo is, please? The loo being a restroom. He was like, the Louvre? That's
You're
like
like
in
the-
Paris. I was like, no, I need the loo.
Yes.
Oh.
And somebody asked what yonks is. Yonks is short for donkey's years, meaning ages. Like, oh, I haven't played that song in yonks, or I haven't played that song in donkeys. You'll also hear, and that's I haven't played that song in forever, in ages. So
Well, it was almost there was another version of Donk's ears.
donkey years.
It was so weird. Yeah, Christine had to help me with this because I kept asking her for like, wait, what is that?
Yes,
And
our
how does
Welsh
that-"
friends.
Yes. Oh,
We're the
my
ones that
there's
we're
so
helping out.
many.
Oh, absolutely amazing. But thank you guys for your support. Thank you so much for checking this out. This is a lot of fun. Again, Matt Stead, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
I hope you guys have a
Thank you.
wonderful weekend.
Aloha.
Aloha.